Alrighty, hello again everyone. So today I'm going to start you off with 3 life lessons that I have learned in the last couple of days. Firstly, never buy cheap downlights. I've had that one behind me blow out for the 3rd time yesterday because I have to keep swapping globes from other rooms in the house because I can't find the globes anywhere. How shit is that? Secondly, and I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, that's right. Always test your recording. I did just before and I actually had no sound, so I'm very glad I did that and I hadn't started talking for however long this video is going to go for. And then I realised I had no sound because I would have cracked the shits. And thirdly, if you could do something simply, chances are it's going to work a lot better. I really hope I didn't just... Okay. So, I was up until about 2:30 this morning working on my game engine, and I finally got... Well, I went to bed at 2:30, got up at 9, worked for another half hour, and then got my collision system working. And the main reason it wasn't working in the first place is because I did it stupid. Then I simplified it down quite a lot. Now, I'm going to preface this because I don't know if I come off as, I don't know, like I'm up myself. I don't think I'm that good. So I really shouldn't be teaching anyone anything. But if it's something I've learnt the hard way that I could maybe help you learn the easy way, I'd like to do that. Or if it's just interesting to watch, which I doubt because it's me. Okay, so let's go from the start. Okay, so this is my collision system. Now, what happens is, okay, so there's this collidable interface. Let's just... Jeez, I did that stupid. What have I done? Okay, so what happens is, okay, this collidable, you can make any object collidable, you just inherit the interface of the class, and automatically in the background it adds itself to the collision system. Then all you have to do is add a collision shape, whether it be rectangle or circle or whatever. I haven't added anything but rectangles yet, just because rectangle to rectangle collision is super simple. Like, seriously, it's literally just, if the top is less than the bottom, then it doesn't collide. If the bottom is more than the top, it doesn't collide, and blah, blah, blah. Otherwise it does. Very, very simple. Whereas circle to square requires, you know, finding the position in the circle you are and seeing if you're actually inside the circle, not inside the square, you know. Which isn't difficult, it's just more difficult than what I was doing at the time. So you assign this shape. Where am I? You add your collision shape, and you set your data. This collision data is just basically a collection of shapes. So actually, now that I think about it, you really shouldn't be able to do that. Oh no, I haven't implemented that one because, yeah, that's incorrect. Never mind. That was a remnant of the old system, which didn't work very well. Okay, and you set your collision data, which can contain as many collision shapes as you want. So if you have something like, what have I got on my desk? That's a good example. I caught it. So you got this PS3 controller, okay? So in this very simple example, you might have a rectangle that goes like that, a rectangle that goes like around, oh shit, I'm getting confused while looking at myself, a rectangle that goes around there, and a rectangle that goes around there, and you have all this space empty, and the space up here empty, and you have a rectangle there, and you know, whatever. So this might have 5 collision shapes to it. And what it does is, if you have like this controller go up against this DS box, you go, okay, so if you're somehow, there's not really any way where it can collide in that space, maybe like that. You would see that, okay, there's no square there that actually collides with it. Let me just try to get that on camera. But if you did that, you know, that's colliding. Because even though there's only one collision square on this, it could have multiple collision squares, it could have a circle, whatever. And it checks each shape against each shape. Now, in my system, there are two types of examples. There is a collidable, and there is an active collidable. The biggest difference, or actually the only difference, is this on collide thing. So an active collidable actually does something to itself when it collides with something. So in the case of, say, a player walking on the floor itself would be a normal collidable because the floor doesn't care when you've touched it. But the player would obviously be an active collidable, so you can say, oh, okay, you've touched the floor, stop moving down, or take off health for a long fall, or whatever. Excuse me, I got some cheap-ass cider, which is actually really tasty. I've got no other drinks in the house. So that's cool. And now this is something I learned about halfway through last year that I'd never heard of, because this came out just after I finished uni, and between restarting this project full on and going to uni, I didn't look up anything. And I started Googling stuff, I started posting questions on Stack Override and stuff, and I found out about lambda functions. And I'll explain that a bit later when I go to how I actually set up the collision on the example. But so basically what this thing does is, all it does is when it collides with the other shape, it just goes, okay, call this collide function and pass in whatever it collided with. So you can check if it's a, well, actually there's not much you can do. Actually no, you can. You can see if it's a ship or a rock or a bullet or whatever. So that's that. Now the collision system itself is all automatic. My game loader, which is what you pass your game into, and it does everything in the background and sets up the window, sets up the console, sets up all the render stuff, and sets the window. Update manager is something I haven't explained, but that's fine. Updates the console, updates the camera, updates my statistics functions, updates all the render stuff. Yeah, and does all the game type stuff, keeps the loop going, updates the input somewhere. Why can't I see where it is? And poll inputs. It also updates the collision system. So it's automatically called in the background. As soon as you add something to the collision system, it's all automatic. So in the case of, say, I've got some collidable sprites, all you need to do is instantiate the sprite and add the shape to it, and it'll do it for you and set whatever function you want to do. So it's a singleton, blah blah blah. I've got some statistics functions, which I'll actually show you in a sec what they come up as. So adding and subtracting from the collision system, and this is the main thing. So what it does is it grabs every active collidable, compares it against every other active collidable that hasn't already been compared against. So if it's a list of 100 active collidables and you're at number 50, it doesn't check the first 49, because that would already been checked, and the first 49 would already been checked against that one. Kind of makes sense. Then it checks it against every normal collidable, and yeah, it goes from there. So as you can see with the active collidable, it activates both of them. So active collidable against active collidable and backwards. And in a normal event, it compares the active collidable against the non-active, and then it doesn't worry about the non-active one. It doesn't tell that one has been hit. Which, if you think about it, as I said with the wall, like the floor example, it makes a lot of sense. You don't care. So why would you send it data, call the function, waste a bit of time? It makes no sense. And if I'm talking about sense, it means it's pretty fucking obvious. Now, I've also got these other three functions, which I don't think I've actually... No, I haven't. God, I'm stupid. So I haven't enabled it yet, but so you can enable and disable collisions for, like, if you put on like clip mode or something, something like that. So that's the collision system in a nutshell. Now, as I said, I got this. Where are we? This collision shape thing, which you can set the position to, and the way I've set it up, because it's a reference rather than like a pointer or just a position or a vector, just a normal class. If you do this guy, I'm getting the position of the sprite, and when you move the sprite, it actually moves the box with it. Now, references, pointers, and just normal classes are something that I really find it, like, I used to find it hard to get my head around. I still kind of do, especially with instances and stuff, but since I've been working in the field for a bit over a year now, professionally, you kind of learn them as you go, and that's the thing with the instances. It actually connects the two, whereas a pointer, it's not really the same thing. If you change one pointer, sometimes it won't change the other one. It's really weird, but instances are cool. So they lock to each other, and I got like this 2D collision rectangle, which is just a subclass of the shape, and it just has this collision function, and you just check it with something else. So in the case of this, I'm only checking it just against a rectangle, just because I haven't got anything else yet. But I can put in a triangle, a circle, whatever else. It doesn't really matter. So that's basically the collision system. Now, in the last video, on before, whatever, I mentioned that my goal is that when you, like, the engine should make all the work you have to do in the game a lot easier. So there should be very little code you have to write in the game to make something happen. So this here is me creating the collision shapes, the rectangle, whatever, sprites, and all that stuff. So these are animated sprites, so active collidable animated sprites. So they're active collidables and they're animated sprites. So that's the texture, the frame width and height, start frame, end frame, frame holds, that's how long between animation frames, and this collision data. I then go and set the positions, then go and create the rectangles and link them to the sprites and the width and height of the rectangles. I then add the rectangles to the collision data, which is already set to this guy. And then I do this here. Now this is the lambda function I was talking to you about. Because this onCollide function that gets called, so onCollide function is actually a pointer to a standard function, not a function but a standard function, which is like from the standard namespace. So this guy. You can actually do functions on the fly. So the good thing about this is you can do stuff like this where, as you know, you might have 100 different sprites. And if it was like as it was before, you have to have 100 different functions in your game state, or you have to have 100 different classes that each have a different like overloaded function or a virtual function for whatever you want it to do on this thing. But with this, I actually am making the function call in the arguments. So I'm actually passing in, what this is saying is give me reference access to all the things from this class. This is saying there is a possibility that the function will get passed in a 2D collidable called other, and this is the actual function itself. I'm going to render the ship when these two things collide. It's so simple. Now, I don't think you'd probably use the lambda functions if it was something more complicated than that. But if it was something like this example, something that's what you would use it on. So I've got the game running, my electrical light show. Now I've hooked up. Hello. That never happened. Come on. Okay. I don't know what happened there. I'll figure it out some other time. So I've hooked up, down, left, right. It looks really laggy. But it doesn't matter. So right now I'm running at 2,783 frames per second. Take that, watchdogs. So as you can see, I'm going to go around it, and it's not setting off. Ooh. But as soon as I touch it, the ship renders. You know how happy I was to see that this morning? Like, I went off my fucking... I lost my mind because I was up till 2:30, then got a few hours sleep and got up and started again. And when it started working, and I found out what my bugs were with it, I was so annoyed with myself. And then it started working. I'm just like, yeah. So, yeah, so it's really easy to set up collision. You have to instantiate the sprites anyway. You have to set the positions. It's an extra one, two, three, 4 lines of, or 5 lines of code to set up collision on a rectangle. You know, super simple. And this here is me moving around the sprite. So that, once again, it's pretty simple. Yeah, that's about it, really. So, I was trying to do it a little while ago, and I was doing it in such a complicated and stupid way, trying to handle animations and stuff. And what it ended up coming down to was, if you have, like in this example here, it starts at frame 4 and ends at frame 6 with this animation. But then if you try to go, okay, I want to change animations to frames 7 to 9, it would try to locate, when you created the 4 to 6, it would create 6 frames, or 6 frames of collision data, which is fine. But when you went to move on to 7 to 9 through the set animation frames, whatever function I have, what is the function? Set animation frames. Yeah, I told you. To 6, set it to 1 to 3, just to make it a bit. So I think there's only 8 frames in that one. Okay, and I want to do that. It wouldn't, if this was a number higher than what it originally started as, it wouldn't recreate the new frames. And it seems like it would be a simple thing to fix, and it would have been, but it was very, very inefficient, and that's stupid. So I set it up to so you have this map that you can either set or not set. So if it's just a single, if the collision squares don't, the collision shapes don't change from frame to frame, which is quite possible if you have something like a, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that's a good example. Oh, if you have something like a fan. Yeah, you can't really see it. And the fan's spinning, you're going to have animation, but it's not moving, so the collision's going to stay the same. So you just pass in this one collision frame. But if it was more than that, you could give it extra collision frames. And then the function is notified, the class is notified when the frame itself is changed from the animation function, and I just reset the collision data. So it's up to the person creating the collision data to make sure that's all there. So when you swap it out again, it tries to get it. Now the good thing about, is it standard maps or is it Q maps? Might be both. I think standard maps return null when there's nothing there, and Q maps return an instantiated blank object. I can't remember, but either way, you could filter on that. Whereas before, because it was an array, it would just wander over to unspecified memory and just crash, which is a pain. Why is my sister texting me? Actually comes up on this corner of the screen where you can't see as well. But yeah, I was doing it in such a stupid way, and I just had this sudden burst of inspiration, I guess, last night, where I was just like, why are you doing it so fucking stupidly? Just do it like this. And so I did, and it works. And it was a lot simpler, a lot less code, and it actually runs quite a bit faster than it did. It used to drop my frame rate by about 30%, and now it's like 1%. It's very negligible. 1% is a bit of overkill. It's about 0.1%. So it drops, I think, 2 frames per second when I was rendering that ship. So it was at 280, and now it's at 278. Oh, excuse me, or something. So yeah, it's not a whole lot. And yeah, I think that might be it for now. I'm still working on things for the engine. There's not much I actually have left to do on the engine now itself. Well, nothing, I won't say nothing, but nothing really too pressing. So, like, got things like Sprite Factory, so you can just pass in a file, like a text file, and it'll know how to load the sprite, load animations, load hitboxes and all that. But I was already working on that, just haven't finished it. Physics, meh. Some math stuff, some more shapes, memory leaks. I don't think I have many. Commenting, networking. I started working on that, but at the moment I'm not going to be using it, so I don't care. Yeah, display options, but meh. Finish collision system. I can actually tick that off now. I'm just looking at my my task list. So I got a parallaxer, which is something I'd like to do, but it's not really a big deal. Camera system, threading. That's something I'll probably never finish. Oh, shut up, Ashley. Xbox 360 controller input. A couple of these things in here twice. So let's delete. Delete. Yeah, so not a whole lot left to do, which is great. So yeah, that's just about it. I hope you've enjoyed it. I do enjoy talking about this stuff, and as I mentioned before, I don't really have a lot of people to talk to about it because, like at work, if I'm talking about coding, it's usually about what I'm currently doing, and what I'm currently doing is not games, so it's not really that interesting. And I can't really relate it back to what I'm doing. I can't like bring up my game at work and say, "Hey, can you help me with this?" or "What do you think about this?" Because that might get me in a bit of trouble. And you know, a lot of my friends aren't into coding. My wife, I talk to a lot, but she has that. Oh yeah, she's a bit more enthusiastic than that. But you know, what I'd be too if that was me in that position, because you know, it's your person you're married to. But yeah, it's good to just, even if it's just talking to myself, occasionally I'll get a comment, and that's enough interaction. I think my introverted self, it's enough interaction for one day. But that's it. So, oh, actually, one more thing. On top of that, I also added. That was weird. Did I do that? Oh, I deleted the. Oops. I added the some collision, or very basic collision stuff to this. So if I do that, I hit the right button, you know, so it matches up, as you can see. You know, so yeah, that's it. I'm gonna stop talking. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.